Womantika everyone. I would like to start by acknowledging that I am currently living and working and playing in the lands of the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nations. And I would like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and also acknowledge that the deep understanding of country and the care for country they have practiced for over 60,000 years. And I would also like to extend the same respect and acknowledgement of all the lands that you're all joining here today and the deep knowledge and understanding of country from all the cultural people of all lands that you're joining here today. Greetings, everyone. Thanks for tuning in and a warm welcome to you all. We are now live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section, and we will address the questions at the end of the session. You are and I would start by introducing myself. My name is Suloji Walisinghe. I am a AILA registered landscape architect in Melbourne with over 18 years of experience in designing and delivering of open space in both private and public sector. I'm also a tutor at Melbourne University and currently the president of Kids in Nature Network, and I'm a part of AILA Environmental Committee, as well as Play Australia Victorian chapter. I'm currently working as the team leader of public open space at City of Kingston. With that said, I will be your moderator for tonight, and I'm excited to host this session with some amazing speakers joining us today. So, welcome to our October IFLA APR talk and share session. The status of landscape architecture profession in IFLA Asia Pacific Region. This webinar series is designed to bring together a diverse group of scholars to explore topics aimed at advancing landscape architecture in the Asia Pacific region. This time, we have invited three other members of the IFLA Asia Pacific region to share with us their recommendations and status of landscape architecture in their respective countries, examining challenges and advancements to promoting further growth in this field. To start off this event, we would like to know where you're all joining us from. So if you could please scan in the QR code that's on the screen and let us know where in the continent you are coming from, and let us know which countries you are coming from. I will share. I think you will be able to see the results. So we've got Singapore, Kenya, Malaysia, Manila. I think we do have speakers coming from Philippines, Malaysia, and Aotearoa, New Zealand. There's a few from Australia as well. Chile, that's amazing. With that, thank you. Welcome, everyone. I would good good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone participating in today's session. We are happy to see and provide talk and share session attendees with this opportunity to listen to three great speakers. Moving forward, I would like to introduce our guest speakers for today. I will be introducing all three speakers first, and then we will be going into the presentation. Firstly, I would like to introduce landscape architect Debbie Takao from Aotearoa, New Zealand, president of Landscape Architecture Institute of Landscape, president of New Zealand Institute of Landscape Architecture, Tui Pitaora. Debbie is also the director of Tipu Design and the manager of the environmental portfolio for Unukuranga. She is the member of the Christchurch City Council Urban Design Panel and is currently leading and development of the Mountain to Seas Management Plan, focusing on climate change adaptation and mitigation of Okura Harbour. Previously, Debbie was the general manager of Matapopoara. During this time, she collaborated with local and central government in instigating in putting the value and the stories of Mana Whenua into the post-earthquake reconstruction of Christchurch, ensuring the city emerges as a 21st century urban environment rich in meaning and character, reflecting its dual history and the treaty partnership. Welcome, Debbie. And our second guest for today is Dr. Noah Atia from Malaysia. She is the president of Institute of Landscape Architecture in Malaysia. She's also the associate professor in the Department of Landscape Architecture at University of Putra, Malaysia. She holds degrees in both landscape architecture and architecture, and she also has a PhD from Lincoln University, New Zealand. Atia teaches urban landscape architecture, planting design, cultural heritage studies, and professional practice, focusing on rural and urban cultural heritage landscapes. She leads 9 research projects and participates in 20 others, contributing to award-winning initiatives as a pioneer researcher in the Warris Research Group, supervising 25 postgraduate students. She is actively involved in organizing cultural heritage conferences and community activities in the Asia Pacific region. To date, she has published 150 journal papers and continues to research in the Royal Bilum Heritage Site in Malaysia. Welcome, Dr. Atia. And last but not least, the third presenter for today is Honorable Cecilia Ariston. I would like to welcome from Philippines. Cecilia is a landscape architect and a member of the Professional Regulatory Board of Landscape Architects in the Philippines. She oversees the multiple recognition of professional qualification programs and has presented on this topic in international forums. She is a member of Program Management Committee for Careers Progressions and Specifications. She co-chairs the Leadership in Education and Practice initiatives. She also facilitates the Philippines Association of Landscape Architects achievement of the IFLA APR Certificate of Acknowledgement. A former president of the association, she has been named a fellow and received the Vanguard Award for Leadership, as well as Distinction Award for Government Service. Welcome, Honourable Cecile. Thank you, and welcome to everyone for participating in this event. In our previous talks, we heard from 2 other landscape architects, Chris Tidswell and Paul Chan from Australia and Hong Kong, on the state of professional recognition in their respective regions. For this session, we have 3 new regions joining us. As I've mentioned, we have New Zealand, Malaysia, and Philippines coming together to answer the 3 questions we have put forward to our presenters to present on today. And the questions being, the first one, what is the current status of landscape architecture practice in your country? And the second question being, what is the key challenges faced by landscape architects uh, uh, gaining legal recommendation for their profession in Asia Pacific region? And the third question being, what significant advancements have been made in the field of landscape architecture in your country in terms of establishing professional practice standards and gaining broader recognition for the profession? Um, so please feel free to share your thoughts on the comments section in the chats throughout any of the platforms you're on, and we will address the questions following the presentations. Now I would like to invite Debbie Tikau to present as our first presenter. Thank you, Debbie.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Debbie Tikau Takawangua. I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to be able to share some insights into the profession, what's happening in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and what we're looking to face into the future, and some of the ways that we're starting to grow and to develop. Now I'm just going to try and put up my presentation here. My presentation seems to have vanished.
It worked just before.
Yeah, it did. I'm just going to upload it again. I'm so sorry about this.
That's okay.
This won't take a sec. Okay. All right, it's just uploading. Not quite sure where it went to.
It is quite late there as well, so thank you for joining so late.
It is. It's 11:15 at night, so it's well past my bedtime. So hopefully I don't stumble through this too badly.
That's fine.
Yeah. So what we are hoping to do is, because it is so late here, any questions that you might have, just we'll get you to ask those prior to, after I've finished. So yes, can we see that?
Yes, we can.
Awesome, fantastic. Okay. So just a very quick overview. Tuia Pita Order, the New Zealand Institute of Landscape Architects, is really the governing body providing governance for landscape architecture in Aotearoa. Our goal is to foster and inspire landscape architects, to inspire the profession, and ensuring it's well equipped to benefit people, place, and nature, both now and for future generations. As a collective of professionals, we have a big responsibility to our membership to ensure that their knowledge base is kept current, that they are equipped with what they need to be equipped with to face the challenges ahead, and to ensure that their professionalism is maintained. We've got a number of different ways that we do that. We ensure that our members have access to things like conferences, webinars. This is all part of our continuing professional development program. And members, of course, must undergo, like they do in other regions, other countries, an examination in professional practice before becoming a registered member, and are encouraged to extend their knowledge and skills thereafter. We've got a number of different ways that we maintain professional standards. Accreditation is really important, that the industry accredits 3 of our landscape architecture tertiary programs. That's Unitec in Auckland, Victoria in Wellington, and Lincoln University in Canterbury. So the accreditation is a key way that the industry is able to feed back into our educational institutions to make sure that their courses, the programs that they're running, are fit for purpose and obviously are covering the topics that we need, that we know, that we can see happening and changing. And registration is a critical component of the way in which we ensure that our professionals are acknowledged as professionals, and that the program is intensive and it requires a mentorship program. There's also a lot of those that are applying for registration have to attend multiple seminars and go through a process, as well as complete their workbook. So this is quite an important aspect of being recognised. And to ensure that learning is ongoing, we've got our continuing professional development program. And that content is driven by the industry, sourced externally, and that involves the participation of many professionals and often a voluntary capacity. So here you've got an image of our latest group that have just gained registration. As you can see, they're all very happy. It's a great acknowledgement. Gaining registration is a significant milestone for a landscape architect. It provides verification of professional ability. But the industry is changing. The world is changing. With advancements in technology, funding more highly contested, and professional standards increasing, jobs are busier, people are working in ever-widening variety of ways. What could once be run on volunteers and love of profession has become harder and more expensive to manage. Politicians have become harder to reach. Influencing policy is becoming even more critical now than what it was. And of course, as climate change is becoming more critical, more urgent, landscape architects in Aotearoa need to step up and to be leaders and influencers in the way in which we can change our environment. In Aotearoa, the role of landscape architects has grown in two key areas. One is climate change adaptation and mitigation, and the other one is working closely with tangata whenua, that's the people of the land, to achieve a landscape that reflects our dual histories and worldviews. Both of these areas require new skills and knowledge set and a deeper understanding of Te Ao Māori, that is the worldview held by Māori. We also know that to be efficient in the field of climate change and climate change adaptation, we need to understand more about the science of the planet. We need to understand the earth processes. We need to understand climate change science and adaptation. And so I'll carry on with what we're trying to achieve here and how we're responding to that in a minute. But first, I just also want to, just touch on the fact that Tui Pita Order has just recently gone through quite a significant structural change. We've just transitioned from a executive committee into more of a governance board structure with an employed management team. So this transition has been established to enable our board, our professionals, to respond better to the changes through things like advocacy, lobbying the government, and building expertise, opposed to doing some of the administration work that we now have got to staff a full management team to be able to do. So that's that's quite a significant change that we've just recently gone through. And just going back to how we are changing how we're responding to change. One of the key things that our board has completed recently is a new strategic plan. And this has really been developed to help to guide us into the future, to set new principles or new kaupapa that are our foundations, and it's a way really to respond to the changes that we've just been talking to. So this is really based on kaupapa Māori principles, values. Kaitiakitanga, I'm sure many of you have heard. It's our responsibility really. And for Māori, that responsibility comes from whakapapa, and it is the act of safeguarding the mauri of the environment, the life essence of the environment for future generations. The other one is kōtahitanga. That's about how we work together as a collective, and manaakitanga is how we express our care for the people that we are in service to, the environment that we're in service to, and the way in which we work together as well. Ahatanga is the act of using original and imaginative ideas. We are creative people, and how we use our creativity to shape the future is critical. Our strategic plan is, at the core of it, really, we have drawn inspiration really from one of our most mightiest trees, and that is the kahakatea. It's a giant in the forest, and it has got this unique ability for its root systems to entangle with each other to create support. So we thought this is an incredible symbol of strength and stature. It reminds us that it is not the individual, but the common goal for collective benefit that is important. It reminds us that we are stronger when we stand together. And that the strategic plan extends to cover some key areas. That is our aspiration, our responsibility to ensure that we uphold our treaty Te Tiriti in all that we do. It's about delivering membership value, and it's about leadership, both within the industry itself, but also leadership within the environment, within our own communities. And kaitiakitanga, again, is about how we all have to be those caregivers, the guardians of our natural environment, and advocacy, how we can advocate more for change. So one of the main things that we have done recently is develop a knowledge growth strategy. So the knowledge growth strategy is very much connected to our CPD program, and the purpose of that is to accelerate knowledge growth in climate change adaptation and mitigation in Te Ao Māori, the worldview held by Māori, and the interface between these two areas. It's also about, we want to uplift landscape architects to be better recognised as climate change adaptation professionals in Aotearoa, where landscape architecture is still reasonably silent in this space. We don't want that to be. The case. We want to ensure that we arm our professionals with the tools that they need so they can step up more and make a bigger difference, as well as carve out a larger piece of that work for themselves, and they've got the tools to, the aroha, the love, and the connection to the land to be able to do that well. And that's pretty much the last point. It's really about arming our landscape architects with those tools to better serve, protect, regenerate the ecosystems and communities of Aotearoa. Some of the things that we are doing and what this looks like and what we've done to date, we're building our events based on our knowledge growth strategy and guiding principles. Our recent wānanga that was held last year it was held this year in May. It was centred on the concept of maramatanga, and that is about illumination, enlightenment, insight, and understanding. And what you'll notice here too, when we talk about how we, one of our key things around growing our knowledge around te ao Māori, it's woven through everything that we do. So it's about how this knowledge is imparted. We're wanting to open up, I suppose, that view, that understanding, and have it seamlessly integrated into everything that we do. We're also developing a webinar series that will be delivered across the CPD year, and that will cover a wide range of climate change related topics. The first big topic we're looking to deliver on is biodiversity. And we are hosting events that foster further discussion. Our first event was when we launched the strategy, and we invited IPCC contributing author Professor Bronwyn Hayward to come and talk to us in Otautahi, Christchurch, and to give us some insight into the climate change political scene within Aotearoa. Also many articles on our website, digital magazine, our landscape architecture Aotearoa. There's a strong focus around climate change topics throughout these pieces. This has been very deliberate. We have an established climate action working group who are currently developing a climate change guideline that's tailored towards our industry and our place. And through all of this, as I mentioned before, we're weaving mātauranga Māori, that's traditional Indigenous knowledge, with the intention of opening the lens through which we look and normalising Māori concepts, language, and ways of doing. That's me, kia ora. So if there are any questions, please let me know.
Thank you for that, Debbie. That was amazing. And I think, as always, when there's anything that you present from New Zealand, I feel quite happy, and there's a lot of joy coming from understanding there's an amazing connection between that cultural history and the cultural knowledge and the day-to-day workings of the country. Something that I think we can learn a lot from. Australians can learn a lot from. So I think a few people have picked up on that as well. It's amazing how New Zealand is working that way. I think for me, a question will be, is there a way for you to teach others to do the same? Because I think having our AILA conference or symposium a few days ago, that was, again, the key theme that came out of it. Connecting to that knowledge and learning from my elders and using that knowledge and understanding to heal this land, and driving force being landscape architects, taking that leadership and directing projects and the growth in a way that we are actually taking care of our land. So that's something that I would love to see if we can partnership or create that connection to learn from. That's just a general thing because I think it is valuable. Do you have any thoughts on potential of doing something like that?
Yeah, well, at our wānanga in May, we held a co-design panel. So it's really a discussion on what is co-design and what does that look like.
Yep.
So
Yep.
when you're entering into that space of, embedding Indigenous values, you need to be working really closely with the people of that land. And so it's about you do need to, there's a lot of learning that has to go into that, how to do that, how to share that pencil, because it's landscape architects as designers, you often want to be the owner of that work. Well,
Yes.
in this case, you've got to actually let that go, and it's
Yes.
how
Yes.
you let that go, and what does that actually look like. So
Yes.
we're still figuring that out. We've got
Yeah.
some good examples, we've got some not so good examples, but
Yes.
it's just it's really about a bit of a mind shift as well
It is.
of how
It
we
is.
can work collaboratively, and how you do that. There's so many different ways to engage.
Yeah.
And I was recently, or was last year, I think, working with the New Zealand, the construction industry of New Zealand, the Construction Industry Council, and working on their design guidelines and integrating a whole new section around Māori design is what we called it. It's just, and looking at the different stages and how that fits within the design and construction process, and to ensure that as project managers, as developers, and architects who often use this particular tool, so there's an understanding that they approach this properly and meaningfully. And there's so many, so much of it is actually about how to engage, how to work, how to co-design, and how to open up, how to make the space to enable that to happen well. And
It's
that's
actually,
when you get magic happening, and
yes.
you get innovation happening, and there's a real, I suppose, there's a great sharing that occurs. So when that's done well,
That is true. I think it's part of us designers needing to put our shields down and really surrender and listen and connect and make that happen, because I think it is quite amazing. There's that amazing opportunity and the wealth of understanding of country that we haven't even scratched as designers. So that's really amazing. And I think it's interesting that you spoke about the changing of the governance of the body, because I think what I feel is currently everyone's struggling, and even paying for CPD point sessions and things like that, that can be quite problematic too. Do you find that as a difference between, because
So
people aren't, yeah,
I mean, it's within our industries, we require so much voluntary time, and
yes,
we've got so many generous people, thank goodness.
yes,
But we're also passionate about our industry. But
yep,
it's with what we've found, even with our management team, the money is tight, so we're
yes,
constantly trying to
yep,
work out how to make sure that we can deliver that value to our members,
yep,
and do all the stuff, review
yep,
policies, it goes on.
exactly.
But it's one thing that we've also noticed is that we are getting less sponsorship because
Oh,
of it's economically,
yep,
we're in tough times, and so we are wanting to potentially start thinking about finding ways to fund, particularly our knowledge for our strategy. How do we actually cover that financially? So financial, within the industry, it's tough. And we've also noticed a drop in membership because, with
because of
our
that. Yep,
coalition government at the moment, there's been a
yep,
lot of political changes, and a
yes,
lot of large projects have been put on hold. So,
yes.
that has resulted in a drop in membership. So we're
And
hoping that's not a permanent thing.
yes, yep, yep,
The other thing that we've observed is that there are less students enrolling into landscape
yes.
architecture degree, which is interesting. I'm keen to
It,
hear what's happening around the
it
world.
it
If
it
it's
is
happening
pretty much
everywhere
the
or just
same
here.
here, I think,
This
because
is, this is
the numbers are dropping, and I'm
uh,
surprised. I'm like, why wouldn't anyone want to do landscape architecture? Because it is such an amazing field, but I think it's also because maybe people don't know exactly what we do as well.
yeah,
Um,
that's a
so
key issue. Yeah.
yeah, so that is
How do
an
you
area
get
I
that
think
message
we
out?
can, like, be leaders and share and get our young people to actually see the amazing work they could potentially do in creating their cities. So definitely those two. the leadership. And I think I love the idea that you're using that, like the tree and analogy to just get that strength. And I think it's like connecting all the knowledge and growing and doing something actually that serves for future generations. That's, I feel like, what we all are doing as landscape architect. It's not for us, it's for the future
Yeah.
generations to come. So it is so important that we get that base right to create bigger and more impactful sort of future changes. So I mean, just a thought, maybe all the LAs should share the CPD stuff among each other so we're not doubling up on things, and then people
Yeah.
can sort of get more value and, create that sort of, especially when everyone's thinking whether they should spend money here or there and just trying to save. I mean, that's another
Yeah.
thought.
I think that's particularly relevant between AILA and NZILA. And I
Yeah,
believe that
yeah.
our COO, Angela, is talking with Ben about how
Oh,
we
nice.
do that. So
Okay.
I think that conversation is
Is
is actually
in the move.
underway.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
it's in the move. Yeah.
I hope if anyone else have any comments or questions for Debbie, please feel free to put them through. I feel like I'm asking all the questions and taking all the time. Um, but I will you be waiting till the end, Debbie, or you might
Go to bed.
go to bed soon?
I'm going to.
Tour guide.
I might stay for just a little bit longer. I'm
Okay,
keen to
thank you.
hear some of the other presentations,
Yes.
but I might slink off at some point. So yeah,
Okay, thank you. And I
see
would
how we
like to
go.
just thank you for your presentation. It is late and it was amazing to hear. It's always amazingly beautiful to hear talks from New Zealand. Personally, I find it very like a huge. It adds a lot of energy into the landscape field because it is amazing how you guys are doing things there. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you. And now we have our second speaker for today. We have Dr. Noah Atia. Can I welcome Noah to? Thank you.
Thank you
I'll
so
let you
much. Yeah.
can share your presentation and
Yeah.
we can get started on it. Thank
Okay.
you.
All
All
done
good.
here. All
Yep.
right. So may I?
Yes, you may.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And first of all, Assalamualaikum and a very good evening to everyone. And thank you so much from the Institute of Landscape Architects Malaysia to IFLA Asia Pacific Region, in particular for organizing today's event and also inviting us to share the state of our landscape architecture profession in Malaysia. And we're all very happy to be with you. And we hope that today's sharing would enlighten the profession that we all loved, all right, around the globe. So allow me to proceed. Just to introduce about the Institute of Landscape Architects Malaysia. So we were established in 1981. So if you're looking at other professionals, allied professionals in built environment, especially in Malaysia, we are considered as among the youngest for being in the industry for about 40 years, comparing to the architecture and also urban and regional planning who have been set up themselves for more than 100 years. So even though with that, ILAMs believe that we can do a lot and we can always be part of the professionals that already embrace themselves in the industry, and we're trying our best to uphold our integrity as a landscape architects and to perform and to give the best of our services to our country and of course to IFLA, yeah, as one of the country members of IFLA. So basically, ILAM is also operating under the Malaysian Professional Centre, and I'm also the Vice President of the Malaysian Professional Centre, along with other professional bodies, which is the planners, the architects, the engineers. And we are very lucky in Malaysia, which we have always mentioned this, that ILAM, the Institute of Landscape Architects Malaysia, is the only one, the professional association that is also supported by the national body, which known as our Malaysia National Landscape Department. So working hand in hand with National Landscape Department has somehow given ILAM a very strong foundation to spread our wings and also to perform our services in Malaysia. Right? So in ILAM, our issues are basically about the professional education program in landscape architecture. As we all know that our profession has somehow evolved. Yeah, from the 90s, from the 80s and 90s, our profession evolved as the one who are creating the outdoor environment for recreational and making it good for people and also for the city especially. But today, with the climate change and also the global warming issues, our profession is looking into a very dear focus and concern on ecology and also the climate issues. So this is how the educational program in universities and also the practices has also need to gear towards the changes and enable all the landscape architects to be ever ready to perform and to give their services as one of the what we call it landscape architecture solutions for the environmental issues and beyond only the aesthetic values. So in ILAM, basically we have our individual memberships, which is our corporate members that has to finish the accredited or recognized program, which is a 4 years program, and then graduated with Bachelor of Landscape Architecture, working for 2 years, and then sit for the professional exam, and they can be our corporate members, right? And we also have consultant firm memberships, and we have ILAM members participation in government and also international projects. And today we'll also reveal some of the information on landscape architects in government agencies and our scope of work and regulation of landscape architecture services within Malaysia's legal framework, along with our topic today. Yeah, and here we are. The current issues that ILAM is holding together, I believe that we carry this inspiration from our previous councils, yeah, from the previous presidents, leaders, yeah. So we have this landscape architecture agenda for 2050. So basically, if you can see on the screen, our vision, this is basically our vision for the next 30 years, which is in combating the increased issues looming in the horizon. ILAM is taking proactive and bold steps to pave directions of our professional practice and to play more influential role in national development. So for that, our landscape architecture agenda, which outlines 10 major principles, which I'm not going to share with you in details today. It is all in our website. I welcome everyone to visit ILAM website, www.ilam Malaysia, and you can see we have videos on our LAA 2050. But if I have time, if it is allowed, then I may share that at the end of my presentation. Okay, and our vision basically landscape architects as a base for well-being and inspired living through innovative technology and sustainable values. So that's our vision, and you can see our value here. Landscape architecture as the key players. I couldn't see it from here as there's a bar here, but this is basically we understand that we cannot just run our business as usual, but we need to be influential. We need to carry this influential role to lead and inspire design solutions that will shape our future for better living environment. So it is beyond just giving services, but the inspiration has to be bold inside all the landscape architects. And to carry with me this mission, I'm presenting to you the council members of ILAM 2024 to 2026. These are the people who are supporting me, along with all ILAM members in Malaysia in particular. We couldn't have done all this without the support of our council and without the supports of all ILAM members in Malaysia. And for your information, we have around 1,600 members following through all the categories, and we have around 650 registered corporate members in Malaysia governed under the Institute of Landscape Architects Malaysia. Right? And for your information, we also have around 6 universities offering Bachelor of Landscape Architecture, and 2 universities actually offering Masters of Landscape Architecture. So this is running, and I got to know that there are few more universities currently are opening or introducing landscape architecture program, and the upcoming one is also University Kebangsaan Malaysia, and there are a few others who are now under our recognition program. So they're still in the very initial progress, so they are not yet on the list. So these are basically the official running program that we have in Malaysia, that somehow, somewhere producing around 450 to 500 landscape architects every year, from all the 6 universities. And here we have this ILAM membership status. So basically we have around, you can see the total from the corporate members, graduate members and associate members. So which is totaling about 1,600. Yeah. And then we have around 135 registered firm by ILAM, and we also have the top firm. We basically recognize 5 top companies or top landscape consultants in Malaysia to set a benchmarking for all other newly developed consultant firms, and also to play leadership roles to somehow bring the best practices of landscape architecture in Malaysia. So we have awarded around 5 top landscape consultants. We have just started last year, so it is very recent, and we believe that this is one of the best motivation that we could give to all our members, to inspire them, and also for them to lead the new young consultants, and to give the best practices that we are all very proud of. Okay, and the other one is basically ILAM member involved in government agency projects. So you can see there are government agencies that basically working with landscape architects in Malaysia. So we have National Landscape Department, we have Public Works Department, Plan Malaysia, which is the planning, Department of Irrigation and Drainage, we have Forestry Department, Department of Environment, Heritage Department, local authorities, Malaysia Highway Authority, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Trade, National Housing Company, Ministry of Defence, and Ministry of Home Affairs. So basically, even though we do not have that big numbers, but basically we are all I would say that we are all spread around, and we have been given chance by especially these government agencies to perform and to give our services, especially on the landscape architecture industry. And this is landscape architects in government agencies. As you all know, that we have around 14 states in Malaysia. So we're very lucky to have our landscape architects to spread not only in our federal territory, but also in all states in Malaysia. The numbers are coming up, but of course, you can see lots of discrepancies. Some are very huge numbers, but some are still stepping up. But I believe at least by having these representatives in the state, especially in the local authority, help us a lot to govern landscape architecture services in each of the states in Malaysia. So this is our data that we can share with you. And based on our scope of work for landscape architects in Malaysia, we are basically involved in site planning. So I have to mention that at the moment, we are not governed by any federal act, but we are engaging or doing our services in conjunction or basically relying on regulatory requirement, which is under the Act 172, which is urban and regional planning, that includes some of the site layout plans, open space designation, and also tree preservation orders. So for this reason, this is why we, even without a formal legislation, ILAM and also the National Landscape Department able to allow for all landscape works in Malaysia, especially in the big states or in the main states of Malaysia, to have the landscape, the official landscape submissions in each of the project before and during the development order. So we are basically relying on this Act 172 that allow landscape architects to perform our services and to be the professional who is recognized to do a landscape architecture project. And therefore, we have this approval process for development proposal with landscape elements, where landscape architects serve as a submitting person, right? So I believe this is one of the thing that we have been doing, even though it's been a very struggling process in the beginning, but slowly we're able to place ourselves and be the submitting person, especially for the landscape architecture projects. Yeah, and in our site design also, we preparing the documents, which is a landscape inventory, planting plan, grading, drainage plans, and also considering about the health, safety, and welfare concern that includes the structural stability of landscape features, because we have to make sure that all our recreational and landscape spaces have to be safe for people, right? And we also involve with landscape planning and studies, where we involve with the impact studies, namely the environmental, social, heritage impact assessments, where landscape architects often contribute as a lead consultants, which we do it in our own, very own landscape architecture perspective and our very own angle. And therefore with this, we are also contributing, sometimes we lead and also be part of other professionals, especially planners, to be included as the professionals in the social impact assessment, environmental impact assessment, and also heritage impact assessment. And with that, we also studied that there are other countries in the world that are having their landscape architecture regulations. Yeah, so this might not be recent, but basically we can do as a benchmarking. Around the globe, we have around 19 countries who have basically an official legislation or Landscape Architects Act. Some are self-regulated, which is 5 countries. Not regulated is about 30 countries, and no information is around 17 countries. So total is about 71. But in Malaysia, basically we are considered as self-regulated, yeah, because we do not have our own act yet. So basically our work is enhance the government recognition through ILAM for qualifications and scope of works, because we believe that the industry needs or require some information about the registered landscape architects and the one who is qualified to do landscape architecture projects. So this is how and when ILAMs come in to somehow recognize, and also to have our corporate members, so that these are the leads who can help the government to do projects, whether it is a government projects or a private projects in Malaysia. And we self-regulation, ILAM, not just working alone, we are collaborating with other boards, which is the Malaysian Design Council, Construction Industry Development Board, to be the competent person as landscape architects professionals in Malaysia. And we also incorporated and integrated alongside the established act and the governing board, for example, the Act 172, which I mentioned to you earlier, right? And then basically in our scope of work in Malaysia for landscape architects within the legal framework, so we are again governed by Act 172. That means those are the clauses that is pertaining to landscape architecture elements, and giving us a provision, we have section 21A that allows us to perform landscape architecture services based on section 21A open space provision, section 21B site layout plans, which landscape architects can be the principal submission person, 21C preparation of plans by qualified professionals. This is the list by recognized by ILAM and also the National Landscape Department. Section 22 handling applications. Section 35 on tree preservation orders, which is on our heritage trees, and section 38 designation of development areas. And for all this, all the landscape architecture projects require approval process during the planning approval through our one-stop center together with other professionals. And in this approval process, landscape architects serve as a submitting person or principal submitting person in specific cases such as public parks and open spaces, right? So in landscape architects in Malaysia is also recognized to prepare development proposal report for landscape character plan, planning permission or development order for site landscape layout plan, landscape plan, tree conservation and landscape management, and also tree preservation order report. So these are among the scope of works that we are practicing in Malaysia. But however, we are still having some issues, which is inconsistencies in data requirements for landscape character plan across agencies, because when we talk about landscape architecture, we cannot work alone. We need lots of information from other agencies as well. So we are now working into how to incorporate it together so that we can have the most recent and visible data for us to prepare our LCP, which is landscape character plan. And we are also now working on the tree preservation order process, which is recently introduced. It is not very refined, but it's coming up along the way. And also lack of explicit mention landscape architecture in 21C, right? So because of, they didn't mention landscape architects, but they just mentioned us as a competent person. So this is the reason why we believe that having our own, what we call it, a regulatory act would be very good, so that landscape architects can be spelled out as or written in the legal document as the competent person to do landscape architecture works, which is at this moment, it is still invisible. And for that, landscape architects also has to give a very focus and concern on health, safety and welfare. And for that, we all agree, right? Especially in the Asia Pacific region, not only in Malaysia, but I believe throughout the regions, we have insufficient open spaces, loss of biodiversity and natural landscape character, contributing to issues, for example, flash floods and vector-borne diseases and many others. Yeah. So for that, we also what we call it, preparing or giving our services in the site design requirement. And in this case, we are basically depending or standing with the Act 133, which is Drainage and Building Act, or we call it Uniform Building Bylaw, which governs site planning approval through OSC, One-Stop Center Submissions 3.0 plus. So basically, these are the legal requirements that landscape architects has to go through whenever we are coming with our projects by the professional landscape architects. So for that, it involves quite what we call it a few process requirements that involve multiple phases, from pre-consultation to final inspection and handover. That means all the landscape architects' works is being governed by the government, and it is under an official, what we call it, bylaw. And for this, landscape architects has to come up with landscape inventory, analysis, layout, planting plans, engineering landscape plans that includes grading, modeling and drainage, lighting, and also the maintenance plan. So in here, our issue is basically visibility and documentation requirements among local authorities, which somehow, as you can see from the beginning, we have around 14 states and about 150 more or less, local authorities in Malaysia, and each one has their own standard and requirements. So but of course, I believe all landscape architects adhere to all the processes, but these are somehow quite an issues when we work in detail, right? And absence of mandatory landscape plan submissions under OSC 3.0, which is some of the, especially the small states, they are still not putting it as mandatory. And when it comes to health, safety and welfare concerns, in Malaysia, for example, we talk about risks related to vegetation. We have issues on the falling trees, especially nowadays at the end of the monsoon season. So we have a very high rainy season. So normally these issues is very common during this period, and how landscape architects can be part of the professionals to resolve these issues, and potential hazards in recreational landscapes. Sometimes we are designing and we have to also concern about these potential hazards, especially when it comes to play equipment injuries, drowning in the ponds and whatnot. So how do we, as what we call it, professionals who has these liabilities to deal with these real issues in our projects and in the country? And under the legal requirement, also we do our landscape planning and studies, which under our Act 172. So the landscape architects can serve as a submitting person or consultant in landscape impact assessment for structural and local plans. For that, we are doing our documentation like landscape sectoral report for structural and local plans, social impact studies and report for physical and social development. And again, we have issues when we're working on that, but this is common things when you work. Of course, sometimes you have, it's very difficult for you to get all the data, and sometimes the data is not updated, but I believe that it gives us all the opportunities, and it's always give us the strength to move forward and to find the best, and always to give the best in our services. And also the health and safety welfare concern, impact on green spaces and natural landscape from uncontrolled development. So these are the things that ILAM, especially together with our National Landscape Department, working with the local authorities and also our various ministers, especially when we introduce our nature-based solutions to look at landscape architecture, not as for beautification only, but also to be one of the doctors of the outdoor environment. So we are the doctors of the outdoor environment to heal our environment and to make it better for people, right? So then we also need to concern about risk of crime in poorly planned areas, and to have the landscape spaces or green spaces that can be experienced by all categories of community, from the poor to the exclusively rich community, so that landscape is not just for the rich people. Landscape is for everyone, right? And you can see that here, specialization available to landscape architects in Malaysia. So we have 8 expertise here: environmental impact assessment, social impact assessment, heritage landscape impact assessment. Landscape architects also be part of the construction management, project management, arboriculture, playground safety inspection, park and recreational management, and these are the recognizing association next to it, and basically the government accreditation will somehow recognize the works of landscape architects within these specialization areas. And issues and cases involving landscape architects, I believe this is just a numbers for us to also give concern when it comes to policy and regulation. There are sometimes tree-related accidents, accidents involving hard landscapings, insurance claims due to tree accidents, insurance claim due to hard landscaping accidents, and many others. When we do outdoor spaces, I believe that we are more prone towards the natural accidents, especially in Malaysia when we have rainy days and the surfaces might be very slippery, and also would be very dangerous as well after the rain, right? Sometimes people don't go to the park. Normally people don't go to the park during the rainy days, but after the rain people will go to heal the fresh breeze and whatnot, and during that time is actually the area or the concerns that should be given by landscape architects in any of our projects. And basically, justification for landscape architecture legislation in Malaysia, because of that working process and also responsibilities governed or being given to the landscape architects in Malaysia, we believe that landscape architects should have our own legislation, right? So why do we need this control of landscape architecture services? And sometimes people do not like to be controlled. But in Malaysia, we foresee that when landscape architecture profession is one of the legislative profession, then we can do more. We can give our professional services beyond, and we can also supply the very best outcome from the projects that we are having in Malaysia. And we truly believe that with this landscape architecture legislation, we can move faster and we can move greater, as it is being legally supported by the government, right? And not like now we are basically self-regulated. So why do we need that? So that we can have the quality and safety, as we said, to provide safe landscape areas and facilities, so we can prioritize satisfaction for user and to prevent accidents, professionalism and ethics. Of course, we need to keep up to very high standard of landscape architecture profession. So having this legislation in somehow, some way could give the control on our professional and ethics. So by being regulated, our ethics, discipline of landscape architects can, especially when we collaborate with authorities and public welfare, so this could be more specific and we have this liability process. And government oversight, we have federal, state, local government, and requiring a responsible professional body to oversee open spaces and landscape, promoting public health and safety. And national policy implementation, so we have our National Landscape Department. So they have provided, if you can see down here, relevant national policies that has been established. So we need to support these government policies, and we can promote public health and safety. And we can also, we can have recognition and unified with other professionals in Malaysia, and enhance government collaboration. So that will allow landscape architects to contribute to more comprehensive to national committees addressing landscape development. So at the moment, these are the examples of relevant national policies that we are using, which is the National Landscape Policy, National Urbanization Policy, National Environmental Policy, National Community Policy, and National Biodiversity Policy. Okay, so I think this is basically the issues when we do not have our act. So what should we do? This is moving forward. We have I've already stated our practices, the issues, and moving forward. So the approaches that we can go alternatively is registration through professional bodies, which somehow has been practiced in the United States, which landscape architects is registered under the Professional and Occupational Association Registration Act when a specific act is absent. This is in United States. In European Union, they have European Landscape Convention, applies in countries lacking specific landscape architecture law. And in Singapore Design Councils allow landscape architects to be registered through this council. And in Japan, qualified landscape architects operate within the Urban Green Space Conservation Act, Forest Act, and Landscape Development Act, similar to what we are also practicing in Malaysia. And South American policy, we have policies that directly involve landscape architects in development initiatives. So these are some of the examples or case studies that we can learn from other countries around the globe. All right. So current regulatory status in Malaysia. So at the moment, all the corporate landscape architects has to register through ILAM. So landscape architects are registered with ILAM, primarily for report submission to authorities and firm registration with the Ministry of Finance. And we have to follow the local authority guidelines, which is the local authority level. Registered landscape architects are typically required for submitting landscape reports and plans. So local authority will always refer to ILAM, our website, to get the updates of our active members and also our registered members, right? So we propose self-regulated regulation for landscape architecture in Malaysia if no act is enacted, which is what we are doing now, which is self-regulation through ILAM, formal government recognition of ILAM for landscape architecture qualification, scope of work, report submission, firm registration, and also industry development board. So we enforcement by state with the help of enforcement by state and local authorities. Local guidelines could mandate landscape plan submissions through an administrative framework, affiliation with an existing board, creating special council under existing board to address qualification, education, and representation of landscape architects, establishment of built environmental council if this is possible, and collaboration with Malaysian Design Council. So there are many ways that we can do in order to make ourselves visible and legally recognized for us to practice our professional services in Malaysia. And in Malaysia, basically the issues that we are facing, just to share with all of you, there are some over-regulation concern, So believing that introducing Landscape Architecture Act would not over-regulate but a fill gap, So we believe that when we have the Landscape Architecture Act, we are not over-regulating or adding more of the existing acts that we have, but somehow we are filling the gaps and complementing each other. And the act would also not allow the monopoly in the industry, but very concerned on the health, safety, and public welfare so that we can perform our services in a very good way, and also procedural impact, so involvement of landscape architects in the policies and also submissions in a well-prepared manners, So ladies and gentlemen, this is the landscape architecture of the future, which I get it from AI. I believe that we believe in ILAM, we believe that landscape architecture is not just profession of today, but it is actually a profession of a better tomorrow, And we might have all the skyscrapers coming up, but trust me, we will keep all the trees growing and make sure that our land is green and comfortable for each and everyone in the city centers or in other spaces of the world. With that, thank you so much from ILAM, and I end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was lovely. Sorry, excuse me. I would like to check if anyone had any questions. In the meantime, I might jump in and ask you. There's 6 universities you said that has landscape architecture. And you currently don't experience any problems in intake of landscape architects. Do you know?
So far, we do not have any issues. We are very lucky. We have just receiving, because I'm also teaching in University Putra, Malaysia. So basically, we kept our numbers of our students basically around 40 students per year. But there is one university which named as University Technology UITM, UITM Malaysia. Their intake is around 80 students per year. And we also have, for our master's program, master's program always lesser than the bachelor undergraduate program. So we basically receiving around 15 to 20 students for our master's program in UPM, and also in our one of the university which is in USM, University Science Malaysia. So basically we do not have issues, and this is the reason why ILAM and also the National Landscape Department is working really hard to make sure that we are relevant to the industry, and our professions is required as a submitting person. That means we are doing not just we are doing the legal according to the legal and also the regulated professional. So basically, this is the reason why I believe that some of the parents, especially when we talk about students coming in, parents is always the one, the mastermind of the children. Parents also nowadays are quite comfortable and quite what we call it trust. They have the trust of landscape architecture profession in Malaysia.
That's good.
We're struggling. We
Yeah.
are not complacent, and we are not what we call it
Yeah.
comfortable. Cannot just be comfortable with what we're doing.
Yeah.
We will keep introducing and make our landscape architecture profession is visible and relevant, not only for today and also for tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, it sounded like there's a lot of areas that the landscape architects are currently doing in Malaysia. You
Yeah, yeah,
mentioned
as I
about the
presented.
engineering.
Yeah.
There's I mean, in Australia, we potentially don't do that. So there's a there's more knowledge, but I
Mm-hmm.
guess but even in Australia, we're self-regulated. I guess AILA is the regulatory body here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to hear all the different government bodies that are needing the landscape architects to work with them, which is
Yes.
actually a
Mm-hmm.
better approach than what we might be experiencing here.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I think landscape architects will be doing a lot more in Malaysia. By the sound of what you just mentioned about all those different layers, it sounds amazing. The knowledge that they would have. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there was another note that I made.
Mm-hmm.
Um, think you said 1,600 landscape architects. I think the number
Mm-hmm.
you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an oversupply, or is there enough work for all the landscape architects that are graduating
Mm-hmm.
within the
Yeah,
country?
1,600 numbers is crossing all categories. We have
Yeah,
student members, we have
yeah,
corporate members, we have individual members, we also
yeah.
have associate members. So 1,600 is crossing all these
Okay.
categories.
Yep, yep.
Also, our graduate members, and the bulk always goes to our graduate members where they
Hmm.
registered themselves after they
Hmm.
graduate from university, and they have to wait for 2 years.
Hmm.
While waiting for the 2 years, they have to register as a graduate members, and
Yeah.
after a minimum of 2 years, they will sit for the examination. So the bulk of the
Yes.
numbers goes to our graduate members. The one that are now officially practicing in Malaysia is around 650, which is
Okay.
our corporate members. So around
Wow.
650. Mm-hmm.
That's
So
that's a big
uh,
number.
but still we believe that we need more landscape architects in
Okay.
Malaysia, yeah, especially
So there's
the
work. There's more
yeah,
work than.
more works to
Wow.
do. And
Oh, wow.
if you look at to some of the data that I presented just now,
Yeah. Yeah.
some of the local authorities are still having insufficient numbers of landscape architects. So by elevating the numbers, we hope that
Hmm.
that will facilitate the government procedures, and also to increase competition for landscape architecture profession in Malaysia. So the more
Mm-hmm.
we have, the more it is competitive, and the more
Yes.
we can always give the best that we could as a landscape
Yes.
architect.
That's true.
So we truly believe that the number should be something that is a positive for us to keep moving. And
Yep.
also, we have more opportunities to embrace ourselves into different areas of the projects, not just in landscape projects, but the
Mm-hmm.
projects that might be related to environmental, projects that might be related to health and well-being, yeah, so forests and whatnot. So the more we have our corporate members, the higher we can go, and the more visible landscape architects, and the
Yeah.
better works we can produce for the country.
Yes, true. And just out of interest, when you mentioned about projects, wondering if landscape architects get involved in large construction projects in earlier on, or do they come in at the end of the projects?
Okay, when we started in the 90s, for example,
Yeah,
landscape architects in Malaysia came in always at the
at the
end of
end.
the project
Yeah, yeah.
progress. Yeah, so after all the plants has been scraped off, the ground has been scraped out, then they call in landscape architects to replant the trees and to refill back the soil. So I believe that's how we grow together,
Mm,
together with the rest of landscape architects around the Asia Pacific region at least.
yeah.
But currently, we see a positive approach for landscape architects in Malaysia. There's one project, for example, that winning our Malaysian Landscape Architecture Awards 2023. That was actually a Gamuda Garden. And it is somehow the landscape architects is being called from the very beginning of the project, and we managed to turn this engineering process into a landscape architecture natural process, especially on the retention pond. So with that solution, landscape architects for that particular award winning project able to increase the green spaces,
Mm-hmm.
able to increase the retention pond, which is more natural like, which is very much landscape architecture ecological approach, and to reduce the construction cost. That's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
Yes,
Just to share with
yes,
you the government project that we are talking
yeah,
about,
yeah.
the retention pond, for example, give you an example, by the engineer supposed to cost the developer around 10 million, but when we came in with the natural landscape architecture solutions, or we call it nature-based solutions by
Nice.
landscape architects,
Yes,
we are able to reduce 1 million of retention pond with the landscape. The
nice,
engineers needed 10 million only for the retention pond, but when landscape architects came in, retention pond with the landscape cost developer only 9 million. So I
nice.
believe landscape architecture is amazing, is wonderful. We can do more when we
Yes,
come
definitely.
in a very beginning, and it is
Yes.
evidently provide we have the evidences in the projects that we have in Malaysia.
Do you think by not by because currently you're working to the Act 172, by
Mhm.
having that legal position, you might be able to get in front a lot more, or do you
That's
think?
what we believe. Yeah, at
Yeah,
the moment we are basically integrating ourselves with the current established act.
yeah.
And there are also under the National Landscape Department, they are still working together with ILAM to somehow to foresee the best position that we could have
Hmm.
in for landscape architecture industry. But I'm so
Yeah,
sorry, Sluchi, that
that's all right.
today we still cannot talk about it because it is still under the government procedures.
That's
So
fine.
I definitely dare not to spill the tea. But maybe,
Don't don't
yeah,
don't don't say anything that will impact your outcome.
yeah,
So that's
yeah. So
fine.
the activity, yeah. But somehow we are not complacent, and we are not just sitting
Yep,
here just satisfied with what we are doing. We
yep,
foresee that whatever the best we could do for the profession, we will
yep.
go with it. Yeah.
Yes,
So there are
and
some procedures and
yep.
somehow efforts done by everyone here
That's
in
great.
Malaysia to
Yep,
see
that
our
sounds
profession
amazing.
blooming.
That's really
Yeah.
good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you mentioned about the sort of safety components. Again, something that's a lot different to how sort of in Australia we deal with, because we don't have that
Mm-hmm.
sort of safety component, yes, but the monsoon rains and things, and then impact on that
Mm-hmm.
potentially might be happening down the track with the climate change. We are
Yeah,
getting quite
yes,
crazy weather changes. But
agree.
are the landscape architects not covered by insurance and things because they're under the Act at the moment, or are they still covered?
Normally, in such projects,
Yeah.
the insurance is covered by the local authority. So this
Okay.
is the gap that we found, which is quite not the right way to go, because the design is actually by the landscape architects.
Yes.
When the fault and hazards happen, the
Mhm.
local authority has to take the responsibility. So by having our regulation, we would like to be the competent person who legally binded with responsibility. That means if hazards happens in our landscape spaces, the landscape architects has to take 100% liability of what they are working on. So
Okay.
at the moment we do the design,
Mhm.
right? But when things are not happening in a good way, some other people are taking the blame, and some
Mm.
other people has to pay for the insurances and whatnot. So this
Okay.
is where we believe that having our profession to be regulated
Yes.
in a good way, that
Yep.
nowadays we are not responsible for any things that went wrong, but we, even with that, we truly believe that we have to be a professions who are very responsible to what we do. So this is the
Mhm.
reason why Ilam believe that having our profession to be regulated is very important, so that we are responsible and we have the liability for any professional conducts that we are working on.
That's
Mhm.
amazing. Wish you all the best. I hope to
Thank
hear
you. Thank
good
you so
news
much.
soon. And thank
Mhm.
you very much for today's talk. I might actually see if our third presenter is ready for.
Oh, thank you so much, Lucy.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too.
Hi, Cecile. Thank you.
Hi,
I'll let you
good
start
evening.
your presentation.
All right.
Just a reminder for everyone, if you have questions, please put them on through to the comment section, and we will address them after this session.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
All right.
Thanks, Cecile.
So, uh, for the Philippines, oh, by the way, magandang gabi, magandang araw, good evening, good afternoon, good day to all. Thank you for inviting me for this talk and share. And I'd like to introduce to you the development of the Philippine landscape architecture. Now, in 1964, when our grandfather of landscape architecture, the late Ildefonso P. Santos, arrived back from the US, he had attempted to organize the landscape architects, but they were few. So in 1968, again, a second attempt to organize, but still few. So he surmised that probably it was about time to set up a bachelor's degree program at the University of the Philippines. So that happened in 1971. Now, in 1977, having a few graduates already, they were able to establish the Philippine Association of Landscape Architects at the Architectural Center Club in Makati City with the assistance of Zui Miller of IFLA and Campbell Miller of ASLA. There were 9 charter members, four of which who have passed away already. So, and then in 1978, Pala was unanimously elected as a member of the International Federation of Landscape Architects during the 1978 IFLA Regional Conference in Salvador, Brazil. In 1983, the Professional Regulation Commission, the regulatory body of the Philippines, recognizes the landscape architecture as a profession and establishes the Specialty Board of Landscape Architecture. In 1985, the Specialty Board of Landscape Architecture conducts its first landscape architecture examination. In 1985, the Regional Center for Tropical Landscape Architecture is established at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. This is the State University of the Philippines, a premier state university. In 1989, PALA hosts the 27th IFLA World Congress at the Philippine International Convention Center in Manila. At this time, there were less than 50 landscape architects here in the Philippines, and only a handful were able to manage the organization of this World Congress, headed by the late I.P. Santos. In 1999, PALA holds its first national convention at the EDSA Shangri-La Hotel. Then in March 30, 2001, after about 10 years, RA 9053, or an act regulating the practice of landscape architecture in the Philippines, was enacted. In September 2002, the first professional regulatory board of landscape architecture was constituted. The following year, the first licensure examination for landscape architects under the new law of the Professional Regulatory Board of Landscape Architecture was conducted, and a second university opened its bachelor's degree program in Cebu. This is the University of San Carlos in Cebu, which was spearheaded by landscape architects Cora Ortega and Omar Maxwell Espina, the Dean of the College of Architecture and Fine Arts of the university. Then in 2006, Ildefonso Santos was recognized as a National Artist of the Philippines for Architecture and the Allied Arts by the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. In 2009, the first Technical Committee for Landscape Architecture was constituted under the Commission on Higher Education, or the CHED. Now, this technical committee is responsible for formulating the program standards and guidelines for the bachelor's degree program. It is also responsible for the monitoring and inspection of the higher education institutions that offer the bachelor's degree program. The board sits as a member to ensure that the licensure examination, the contents, are aligned with the bachelor's degree offering. In 2015, PALA reactivates its participation in IFLA APR, and the board initiates its first mutual recognition of professional qualifications efforts. In 2016, PRC is awarded ISO 9001-2008 and continues to be certified to date. And RA 10912, or the Continuing Professional Development Law, is enacted. In 2018, the Commission issues Resolution 1092, or the Adoption of Professional Qualification Code, or FIQUAR, for submission to the Philippine Qualifications Framework Technical Working Group on Qualification Register, and includes the registration of the practice of landscape architecture in its registry. And in 2017, PALA also initiates and rolls out its first Gantimpala Awards, which gives recognition to its members who have outstanding works. In 2019, 30 years later, PALA hosts the IFLA APR Congress in Cebu. In 2022, PALA completes the first edition of the Philippine Landscape Architecture Standards and successfully collaborates with the Professional Regulation Commission and the Regulatory Board in formulating the Health Facility Planning and Design Guidelines. Then, in 2022 also, through the board's efforts and through the funding of the government, PALA conducts its first face-to-face leadership in education and practice in person. It is during this event that PALA was awarded a certificate of acknowledgement by the IFLA APR for the education and accreditation and recognition process through the efforts of the board. Now, the next year, the board, together with PALA, conducted LEAP 3.1 at the New Clark City, which emphasized on developing the specializations. So this year, in March 2024, the board received its first approved Career Progression and Specialization Credit Accumulation Transfer System resolution, enrolling the specializations of Certificate of Tropical Landscape Architecture and the Certificate in Cultural Landscape Heritage Conservation and Philippine Qualifications Register through the Professional Regulation Commission. Now, why is this important? Because some of our members are now actively involved in other government agencies, like, for example, the current committee chair for Architecture and Allied Arts at the National Commission for Culture and the Arts is the Honorary Secretary for IFLA, Dr. Kate Nadal. And we also have members in other government agencies such as the Department of Transportation, in local government units, in the and so there. And so now I'd like to share with you the event that we held in 2022.
Would like to greet everyone a joyous morning and welcome to the Pan-Asian Challenges of the Practice of Landscape Architecture International Conference of Landscape Architecture Profession.
This year's conference is significant as we came together to help future-proof the practice of landscape architecture.
Architecture is an expression of values. When we deal with education, professional practice, it's very important that we have confidence and trust in each other's system. Once we do not have confidence and trust in each other's system, there will be no mutual recognition of professional qualifications. So that's the most important component.
If we don't produce our own ranking, don't be surprised that others are going to do it for us. That means we're going to be left out and we are not going to be in the system, in the world system. For how long, I don't know, but this is the situation now. So I hope my today's session can really give you an insight why ranking is important, what does it do to us, what does it do to our countries, and of course to the rise of educations throughout the world.
Aside from talking the talk, we will walk the walk, and tomorrow we join you to join us with a technical tour of historic sites in Manila, Intramuros and Rizal Park.
We want to produce the graduates that are capable, particularly in design and planning works and landscape management.
You want to know my superpower? Superpowers. These are my superpowers. As an environmental planner, I have to be many things to many people. So I deal with government, I deal with farmers, with fisher folks, with women. I have to be innovative, and I have to be a mentor to some who believe that I have somehow inspired them.
We have what's called a national skills priority list, where industries or professions that there are a shortage of can receive preferential treatment within the skilled migration program. And we're hoping that next year in 2023, we will see landscape architecture on that skills priority list, which means that it will be much more easier to come to Australia to be able to work in Australia for a landscape architect, and likewise, vice versa as well.
Landscape architects who are the custodians of the land, holding it in trust for future generations. Stand ready to be active and agile in ensuring the outcome of their professional initiatives and actions that will change the way we live for the better tomorrow. Thank you, and mabuhay.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thanks for that presentation. It's amazing to see how far Philippines have come. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. It's great to see all the changes throughout the years and the growth within Philippines in landscape architecture. Is there anything that you find what if you had to pick sort of an area where you see the most growth in by changing, what would that be in the landscape architecture sort of field?
Well, in the recent years, the efforts of the board really have been aligned with developing the qualifications of our Filipino landscape architects and
Mhm.
mobility across borders. So, which is why with one of the flagship programs of the Commission is the Career Progression and Specialization and Credit Accumulation Transfer
Mhm.
System. And for that reason, uh, this is why we wanted to get that certificate from IFLA first.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then later on, from there, we encourage the universities to get their individual certifications also. You
Okay.
see, the certification emphasized
Yeah.
the process that the commission and
Mhm.
the Commission on Higher Education through the
Yes.
technical committee,
Yeah.
what we do to monitor and inspect not only the universities, but also the firms, the landscape architecture
Yeah.
firms, how they progressed, how they, um, if they're compliant with the regulatory laws and everything. So
Yeah.
we've also been very active in the recent years, being involved in various government projects and in government agencies also. PALA has been very active, and I'm very thankful because the board really works hand in hand with them
Mhm.
for all of
Okay.
this.
That's good to hear. And I think we've got one question coming through just asking about how architects and landscape architects work in Philippines. Do architects do landscape architects work as well, or
Well, that's unavoidable, but um, at the end of the day, they see the difference,
yeah.
the output of a real landscape architect and an
Mhm.
architect.
Yes.
Uh, the latest developments really are developers realizing this also
Mm.
in terms of sales. Okay, they've seen the value of landscape architecture and the return and
Mm.
how fast they can really sell their properties because it did do a lot. Okay,
That's true.
um, they realized that we're not just gardeners,
Mm.
that we're also outdoor space planners,
Mhm.
that we also deal with the natural environment. Um, One of our delegates, in fact, landscape architect Vic Dolog, who's had who's received awards from the IFLA APR for his work, is much sought after right now for a lot of projects
Mhm.
having to do with the built environment and the conservation of the environment also.
Mm. That's I think it's pretty similar here too. We do have architects doing especially school yard projects. And it has been a bit of a discussion within Australia too, trying to get the best outcome for our students in schools, schoolyards, and getting quality outdoor spaces in those areas because that's kind of vital as well. It's not. It's very much a contained space, so the quality of that open space within a school is very important. So, yeah, trying to get landscape architects to be the only ones who can actually develop open space within a school is again something that's not regulated. So we are not able to do that, or we can try to push for it. But I think yeah, architects are more they're independently approved. Their accreditations are different to landscape architecture accreditations. So I think we run into that same problem here as well. Um,
But because we have our own regulatory law and we
yes.
have our own licensure examination, it's we have a better discussion
Yeah.
ongoing and collaboration. Um, there are more architects who recognize also the good that comes out with collaborating with landscape
Hmm.
architects. They
Yes.
realize that the expertise that we bring in to their projects is more beneficial than
Hmm.
detrimental.
Hmm. I mean, it's the key, isn't it? Collaboration and working together to get the best outcome for the community. And we have to start doing that, especially with the, sea levels rising. There's a lot of other things that we need to actually plan for and learn to deal with going forward. So, working
Yes,
together is definitely the
yes,
way
that's correct.
forward. And I think previously the speaker mentioned about we're the landscape doctors. I like that. I thought that I haven't heard that before. Us being the doctors to look after the landscape. Thank you. I would like to ask the audience if they had in. We'll probably be moving to the second poll question. And we would like to ask if you, in your experience, what is the primary barrier in achieving formal recognition and support for landscape architects, landscape architecture profession in your country? If you could please scan the barcode and provide us your thoughts, that will be great. And please mention where you're coming from, so we know which country we are getting the answers from as well. Thank you. That was great. It's so it's a fresh sort of music to hear different countries and how all the landscape architects are working and the work they're doing. So very nice to hear the discussion today.
Okay, Solochi,
Yes.
may I just share a little bit about the formal recognition?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a very exciting topic that we can talk about when it comes to landscape architecture. This is the root of our profession to somehow mold the graduates to be professional landscape architects. So the barrier, for example, for Malaysia, I believe that we already have our recognition procedures. Yeah, so we do our own recognition, and together, just similar to all the architects and planners are doing. And the thing is that we are also concerning about the international recognition. So that maybe I would say if IFLA, whether IFLA at the world level or IFLA at the Asia Pacific level, could also helps to come in to recognize the programs endorsed by the national associations. For example, so but in this case, allow us, for example, for PALA to do their own education recognition or accreditation. And for Malaysia also, that one will be under PALA. And Malaysia to do our very own recognition of landscape architecture program. As you can see, we have 6 universities offering landscape architecture. And we have IFLA to support us at the global level. So basically, IFLA, I know that IFLA is doing it right now, yeah, based on our the last IFLA Congress. So we talk about the IFLA education in the regions and also in the world. But somehow, if we could allow the country to do, because each countries will have their own peculiarity when it comes to standard of education, and will be the level at the country level, and the other one is at the international level. So for example, if we are in architecture program, they also have their international recognition body to endorse the national program recognition in the countries. So we should expedite that. So our program is not recognized only in our very own countries, but also in the bigger regionals and maybe at the world level. Yeah.
I guess
Eh,
that sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Nor, I think
Yes.
that's what Mike Barthelme emphasized,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
if a country has its own regulation process
Yes.
already, that they
Mm-hmm.
do recognize that. And
Mm-hmm.
on our part, what I did was explain to them our recognition and accreditation process, which is the reason why we were able to get that certificate of acknowledgement from the IFLA APR. However, there was a caveat to that. The universities offering the program are still supposed to get their own individual IFLA APR accreditation.
Yes.
What the board got, what the commission got, was for the process of the accreditation and recognition.
I
However,
see.
in that same certificate that IFLA APR gave PALA, it said there in the last paragraph that those individuals who graduate from accredited universities and pass the licensure exam given by the regulatory board are also recognized as landscape architects throughout the IFLA APR. So these are the conditions still that were indicated in that certificate. So now it's my duty to encourage all these universities to comply with the IFLA APR guidelines. They still need to get themselves accredited, reviewed and accredited. I think the University of the Philippines, the State University, will be doing that soon. Dr. Napi Navarra will be doing that soon already. So I did the first step for them. Now they need to do the next step already. And it really does matter because this recognition of education is a step forward to getting our practice recognized also across borders. There.
That's
So,
correct. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
it's a
that's
very good effort. And maybe next year, if all goes well, we might see each other again here in the Philippines.
Yay! Looking forward.
I guess it's great to collaborate and connect and share that knowledge. And I mean, it's amazing for the students also to move from countries to different countries and get that understanding and put themselves in a situation which is different to their own sort of country and learn and 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 provide more input for other countries as well, because you're bringing knowledge when you're moving around as well. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. I've noted a few people have mentioned about inconsistency in standards and lack of funding.
Oh, in one meeting I had with Pam regarding the professional practice and policy, I did recommend that if IFLA could have something like similar to what the ASEAN has, the ASEAN qualification registry framework, okay, where because we each have our own qualification frameworks, correct? So if we could make one, if IFLA could make one, then it would be easier for
Yeah.
us to be able to cross border. But that's something that's quite a tall order actually, if you think about it. But it would be good if somebody started it already.
Yeah. Agree.
Just having a look at the time. Actually, we've kind of run out of time. We were meant to go into questions and things, but we might jump into the questions. I think some of them might be related to the standards. There's can landscape architects graduate? Can landscape architecture graduates who have not practiced the profession for a long hiatus, say 3 to 5 years, due to not taking the PRC license, still pursue this license? It is still worth pursuing.
Oh, is that for me? Yes,
I
you can.
believe it is.
Yes, you can. But I would recommend taking a refresher course because a lot has changed. Say you had 3 to 5 years hiatus not practicing, it
Yeah.
would be advisable to take a refresher course because the licensure exam is not a college entrance exam. It is a professional level entry examination. So the exam questions are practical, are all applied.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so if you've been out of practice, it will be difficult for you to pass
Mm-hmm.
that exam.
Yeah. As in Malaysia, Cecile and Solochi,
Mm-hmm.
for our graduate members, they have to renew their memberships every year, and during that renewal process, they have to also include the CPD programs. That means
Oh
even
wow.
though you are
Okay.
not practicing
Working.
landscape
Yes.
architecture, you're working somewhere
Yeah.
else, but when
Yep.
you keep up your CPD, that means you're joining ILAM for our events and trainings and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. So that
So you.
somehow prepare you as a foundation for you not to forget what
Yep.
you have been doing before.
Yes.
And then you can also come in to our professional exam course and then sit for exam. Maybe after 5 years, you feel like you're coming back, you want to be a good landscape architect, you're always welcome. So
Yeah.
that's how we somehow encourage our graduate members to always be with us, because we wouldn't know what will happen in the future, right?
True.
So it's okay to take times, no problem at all, but just be together in the depth and breadth of the profession. So when the time comes, you're always ready to be part of us and to take exam, even to be the corporate members. After 2, 3, 5 years, you are able to sit for the exam, and somehow, some way, I believe within 5 years of practices as a landscape architects, no matter we go, our heart is always green, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
you're just having a little bit of updates and maybe a little bit of encouragement and empowerment, you're able to perform, you're able to sit for exam and be one of the best landscape architects. Sometimes when you work in other practicing or other field, and we come back as a landscape architects, you can be a better landscape architects actually. So yeah, it's a chicken and eggs. So we always encourage our members
Yeah.
not to forget us. You can do anything you want because the sky is always for us. But be a good landscape architect. This is a profession that we're obliged to be good and to do good with in our life. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's good to know. That's actually quite a, there's a structure and there's a guidance to come back, and then
Mm-hmm.
having that connection with everyone. I guess it helps them to rethink things and still be part of the family of landscape architects because they
Yeah,
are
yeah,
part of it.
wonderful. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For the
We've got it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
for the
Sorry.
Philippines, renewal is every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But our
Mm.
CPD now, it's actually a law. It's now being geared towards the career progression and specialization. So
Mm.
there are tracks already that we are going to be laying out,
Mm-hmm.
and our professionals are encouraged to take that. So
Mm.
it can be
Mm.
career progression or it can be specialization.
Okay.
Okay,
It
so
is. Do you
it's
have
more of,
a?
sorry.
Sorry, no. I was going to say, do you have a big number of registered landscape architects?
Well, actually, right now, the numbers are growing steadily.
Mm-hmm.
That's because there are only 4 universities offering the degree program.
Okay.
However, lately we've seen an increase in the number of graduates of the master's degree program,
Mm-hmm.
which is a requirement by the Commission on Higher Education for you to be able to teach in the tertiary level.
Yes.
Mm.
So, in our last inspection of the schools, we've told them to please disperse their graduates and not all gravitate towards the premier state university because
Okay.
the demand is there.
Okay.
Okay? The demand for the practice of the profession is there,
Yep.
and the demand to offer the degree program is also there. So,
Mm.
for instance, I've asked Vic Duloog and Dr. Keith Nadal to formulate a program already for another university. I don't know if we're going to do that now, but um, the demand is there.
Mm. Very
The
good.
demand
Yeah.
is
That's
there,
great.
and the board is trying to encourage them because, like Nor mentioned earlier, the more, the better, the healthier the competition.
Yeah, yeah.
True. And that's
Amazing.
amazing to hear,
Yeah.
actually. We do have a few more questions. Maybe I think we discussed that before, both of you. Maybe IFLA can assist the recognition of our program as an international accredited body that eventually supports our professionalism existence and recognition. So as a IFLA body supporting all landscape architects,
Yep.
that is something obviously that probably needs to look through and discuss. But that sounds amazing to have, because it is one body governing everyone, so everyone's
Yeah.
equal in a sense. Do have a few more questions, but I did realize it is 11 o'clock.
It's in
It
Australia.
is
Yeah.
11 o'clock my time, but I
Yeah.
think we were meant to finish in 2 hours. So I don't know if we can keep going, or I'm not too sure about the requirements, but I'll try to go through a few of the questions before wrapping things up. But thank you very much. It was great to hear everyone's presentations and the status of different countries. We've got a few other questions. Just the same person saying thank you for the answers before, and we will contact IFLA APR soon, and thank you again. That's part of our conversation. Sorry, I'm just trying to understand how these chats and the questions are going through. Everyone's saying thank you, thanks. Can you see all the chats as well? Both of you, can you see them, or?
No.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we can see now.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a few thanks and thank yous and appreciations there. I might actually take us to wrap up the session as I would like to sort of wrap up by saying thank you to our amazing speakers today. All three presenters were amazing, and great to hear the progression and the appetite for landscape architects as well. And hopefully we will meet in person one day going forward.
Yes.
And so as a summary, I guess we're all going through different stages and different levels of challenges, and we are preparing ourselves for to face those challenges with suggestions and recommendations, and progress through collectively sharing our knowledge and understanding each other's sort of needs. So I guess significant advances would be actually getting those accreditations for universities and getting those numbers up, and making sure we are able to work across borders. So great to see the landscape numbers quite high, and the appetite and the demand for landscape architects, and also amazing to hear all the work that all the architects are doing, both in Malaysia and Philippines. I would like to I might invite you both to share your final sort of takes or messages before we finish off for the day.
Cecile, would you like to start first? Or
All
me?
right.
Okay.
Yes, I would like to encourage all the landscape architects out there to keep on striving. If you need your regulation, it did not happen to us overnight. And even if we have the regulation already, it's still a daily struggle to establish that recognition, to have a healthy collaboration with our allied professionals, to get the government to recognize us. So it's just like a marriage. It takes every day to work on.
Thank you. Thank you, Cecile.
Thank you so much. I feel like you're also talking to me. Atia, carry on. Because not having our profession to be regulated is also a struggle for us. But I know once, even maybe in the future, once we get it, it's also another, what we call it, efforts and struggles to go through. But I believe this is the beauty of the profession. No matter what, me, myself, I feel very lucky to be born as a landscape architect, yeah, and also being a teacher in a university, also to nurture the youngsters to be a landscape architects. To me, we as a landscape architects, even whether we are being regulated or not, are being regulated, written on paper by the government. To me, I'm very proud of all landscape architects around the globe. Whether it is recognized, whether it is not recognized, you can see how much they have been putting on their efforts and do the works. So I believe this is the heart of landscape architects. Everywhere we go, I believe that landscape architects has a different kind of approach in life. We see things differently. And it is not just about making money, but this is a profession that we carry with us by heart. So I'm taking this opportunity to somehow inspire myself and everyone here today. Trust me, this profession is all for us. We are doing the right thing and the future really needs us. So keep going, keep inspiring people because we're important to heal the world for the future. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's amazing. And I think I would like to extend my appreciation and thanks to you both and Debbie as well. The amazing work that you all are doing is making a huge difference. And it's great to see 3 female leaders changing the world. And, it is a slow process, yeah, like you said, and it is quite time consuming and tiring. And when you're volunteering here and there and doing other things as well. So there's a lot that goes into what you're doing. So thank you. And I send you positive energy to keep going because I think we need more people doing that. So thank you. Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I might head over to closing the session for today. So this was the October talk and share session for IFLA Asia Pacific Region and the state of landscape architecture profession in the IFLA Asia Pacific Region. We appreciate your participation via Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Special thank you goes to the technical team who has organized everything behind the scene to flow amazingly. Thank you. We invite you to share your thoughts and suggestions for with us today about today's session and also on future sessions. So if you'd like to let us know what topics and things you might want to hear from us to plan for future sessions, that will be amazing. So stay tuned to hear more about the state of professional practice from other Asia Pacific regions, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much. And sorry we're 9 minutes late, but it was a great discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much and welcome to Malaysia to study as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.